study,
and play come together on a Windows 11 PC.
And for a limited time, college students get
the best of both worlds.
Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
This is what everyone's talking about.
Everything's on the table.
This is what champions come to take. This is what everyone came to see.
And the slam!
No do-overs. No second chances. No more Mr. Nice Guy. This is winner take all. The NBA Finals continue on ABC and the ESPN app.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Hello there, Stanley Carr here. You know, I love collecting music and sports memorabilia. Want to know where you can find some? I'll tell you. Go to oldglory.com. This website features one-of-a-kind apparel from your favorite sports teams and musical artists. And I can help you get 15% off of all items. Use the code WWH135. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show. Before I introduce my guest today, I want to take this time to promote our brand new book. If you can see it right here, Champions for a Cause Volume 1. It is now available in paperback on Amazon for $15. It's a collection of interviews with some of the legends of professional wrestling. I'm talking about Jake the Snake Roberts, Tito Santana, Mark Marrow, Al Snow, and so many others. Don't regret buying a copy today for $15. Check it out, Champions for a Cause. With me right now, I have a very special guest, four-time WWE 24/7 champion, worked with WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor. The one and only Sidney Akeem has joined us. Welcome, Sidney, to Wrestling with Heart.
Appreciate you, my man. Thanks for having me, and thanks for that amazing intro.
I appreciate it's a pleasure to have you on here. Appreciate the feedback and compliment. I want to get into it now. Doing some research on your career, you've had a very interesting childhood. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, I'm one of 8 siblings, all raised by a single grandmother. My mom died when I was 3 years old, so I never really knew her. My dad, I never knew him. I only heard stories that he was some big drug dealer. And so for the longest time, I've only known me and my 7 siblings and my grandmother from St. Louis, Missouri.
That's hard, losing your, anyone, parents, friends, family at such a young age.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard because you want to get to know them, and you are not, unfortunately, aren't able to have that experience that other people might have being around their parents or grandparents. And you wish you could have that, but you can find those opportunities with other people that become like family.
1,000%. It didn't really hit me that life was different until life got better for me and life changed, because as a kid, that was all I knew. I never grew up saying mom. I never grew up saying dad. It was only grandma, and I just called my siblings by their name. And so I didn't know how impacted I was by it until I had my first daughter. And the joy that I felt when she called me dad, it was this feeling that I never felt before. It was a love, and it was unconditional. And I realized later in my life that like, man, I am really like broken from this childhood because, you know, the killings, the drugs, the gangs, the violence, all of the stuff that I dealt with growing up, I thought it was normal. And it was okay to normalize these things because that was just a part of life. And that was what I saw every day of my childhood.
Yeah. And it's like when you're growing up in such an environment, you want to find things that make you happy, to find that escape to get you out of that. Yeah. And for you, it was sports. Growing up, I know you did a lot of football, basketball, and eventually joined the circus. Let's talk about that experience.
So, I did gravitate towards sports when I was young, but what kid doesn't, right? It's like the fallback when things aren't the greatest in your childhood, or you're not the smartest kid in school. What do you do next? And then it automatically becomes basketball, the football, and some kids fall into that I want to be a rapper category. And so I played those sports, but it was the circus. At 11 years old, I found this thing that I knew nothing about. And I was an acrobatic kid. Me, my brothers, and friends in the neighborhood, we were always flipped with each other in like empty lots, vacant lots all around the city, but it was just a hobby. And so at 11, when I found the circus, it was really something that was so unique and so abstract out of the blue that I loved it. It gave me a platform, a stage to do something that was different, something that was unique. And I gravitated towards it, and I was really good at it. But it was only an after-school program for the longest time before it became something serious, because my neighborhood and guys in my school and like in my hood, they really didn't want me to be this circus performer. And it was only because no one knew anything about it. So I lived two different lives my entire childhood.
Did you ever go to like Ringling, Barnum and Bailey, or a local promotion to just check out these shows growing up as a kid?
So before circus, not at all. I knew nothing about the circus. I know Universal Circus came into town, and that's like the predominantly famous black circus. But no one knew what the circus was. But when I got into the circus, I mean, I knew all about the Ringling Brothers, the Big Apples, the Universal Circus, and then Circus Flora, Cirque du Soleil, all of these different things. I got a lot more knowledgeable once I got into the circus.
Now, years ago, with my high school, attended a Cirque du Soleil show at Disney World. Very well done, put together, beautiful set, amazing performers, great costumes. If you haven't gone to one of these shows, I highly recommend it. It is just phenomenal. What can you tell me the first time you decided, you know, this looks pretty cool, I want to go ahead and do this?
So as a kid, like I said, it was only an after-school program. I didn't think anything serious about it. I said, this is something I can make money by doing backflips. And when times are rough in my life, it was cool because I could go from the hood where I had lots of drugs, gangs, violence, killings, shootings, all of these things. And when times got tough, I would go to the circus, and it was a way to quiet all of that noise that was happening in my neighborhood. I knew I was good because I was playing both fields. I knew I was good, so I would treat my circus family like I treated it like an after-school program. I would go when I wanted, but I also wanted to play basketball. So whenever the basketball season was in, I would quit circus and play basketball. Basketball season would finish, I go back to circus. I was kept going back and forth, back and forth. I didn't take circus serious until after my junior year of high school. The junior year of high school, I was in a gang fight and I got expelled. At that summer, I was expelled, and the next year I was sent to an alternative school. but my life got so low. I had lost one of my best friends through gun violence that summer. I was shot at several times. I just knew that my life was going down a path that I've seen so many times, the path that my brothers are going down, my uncles, and so many guys in my neighborhood. I said, if I don't find circus and get a hold of my life, then I'm going to end up dead or in jail. And so it was that summer I had gone back to the circus to see a show, just to see it. And I felt like I was the only person in the crowd watching the show. And I was like talking to me. It was an out-of-body experience where I was saying, I need to be in there. I need to do better with my life. And it was that moment that said, let's do everything possible to get my life back on track. And that's when I decided that this is what I want to do.
And you learn from a lot of different people that are showing you things, teaching you the tips and tricks and how to do all these things.
Of course.
And I've had people talk to me on the show about their training experiences with wrestling. But coming from a circus background, that in itself is even more difficult because you're constantly having to jump on platforms and really have to condition yourself in a way that it's very, very risky. Very risky, even more so than jumping off a ladder. You really have to do it in a way that's like you have to be still. You have to make sure it's a skill in a sense because you have to make sure you're balancing yourself and you're not losing control of your body.
Of course. I mean, I've trained in the circus for almost 20 years. And so I've seen it all. I've seen it all. I've done it all. And I've performed circus and trained circus at the highest level. I started in youth circus, traditional circus, and then I went to the National Circus School in Montreal. It was the feeder school for Cirque du Soleil. Our school was literally right next door to the headquarters of Cirque du Soleil. And so I had the best circus training in the world, trained by some of the best circus performers in the world. And then I worked for arguably the best or well-known circus in Cirque du Soleil. And not to mention other circuses like Seven Fingers, Flip Fabrique, all of these different circus and circus shows and companies. Like circus is ingrained in me. And no matter how far I leave it, there's always going to be a tie into the circus world for me.
It's a constant because you started with it and it's something that'll always be there for you.
Of course.
And so starting out, like learning the ropes, so to speak, as we'll get into that with the wrestling. What can you tell me about mentors that you had kind of teaching you how to do it? Because when you're doing all these things, man, it's very, very difficult. It's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah. Just in the beginning, I got several mentors in the circus world, and I would start with my mentor. She's actually my mentor. Her name is Diane Miller. And I wouldn't have been introduced to the circus if it wasn't for her. At 9 years old, I went through this program called Discovering Options, and it was for kids that was high risk for falling victim to the system. Did like 10 weeks in this program, and then after we were all assigned a mentor, I was paired with this woman, and she was the first person in my life that allowed me to be a kid. She took me to read in parking lots of the library on Sundays. Would eat rally fries. You probably know it Checkers. I don't know where you are, but Rallies and Checkers are the same thing. We would get those fries, sit in the parking lot of the library on Sunday, and I would read to her because I wasn't a great reader. She would take me out to eat. She would take me to the movies, rock climbing, and she was the one that took me to my very first circus show. She would ask me questions like, what do I want to be when I grow up? What do I like? And it was questions that I wasn't used to being. I wasn't used to those questions. No one really asked me these things about myself or challenged me to find these answers about myself. And so it was her who gave me this freedom, the greatest gift in the world, and it was to be a kid at 9 years old. And my circus coach, Jessica, and my other circus coach, Warren, he was the first male figure in my life that I felt cared about me and genuinely cared about what I wanted. And Not, it wasn't just the stereotypical, oh, he just cares because I'm good at circus. No, he genuinely cared for me as a person and a talent, an artist. And those were some of the very first role models that I have in my life. And to this day, Warren just passed away, but my mentor, Diane, and my coach, Jessica, they're still very much here. I just did a 25th anniversary for Circus Harmony in St. Louis, where I spoke to the newer generation and also performed with the newer generation. So it was my way of passing it on, which was the whole theme of the show.
That's so exciting. And as we'll get into more about this giving back and how you're able to make a difference in others' lives, what did you find the most rewarding about being in the circus?
Oh, man, I can't find just one thing. Like I said, circus is near and dear to my heart because it saved my life. I don't know if this is selfish, but the reward for me back then, like I just loved getting the praise from the audience. Like I was good at it. And I was good at something that was so unique that no one in my family knew about or no one in my neighborhood knew about. I was just a star on the weekends, but during the week I was just the younger brother of 2 gang members. But I felt like so special on the weekends, and that was a reward, a treat for me. Now it's the fact that I've been thrust into this position as a role model. Now people look up to me for motivation, for advice, and it feels good to know that I am in this position to be able to pay it forward. That's the most rewarding thing for me. My coach that just recently died, when he sent me off to Circus College in 2011, I asked him, how can I repay you? And he said, pass it on. And so that's going to be and always will be my motto going forward, whether I am in the circus ring or the squared ring in wrestling.
Were you always a big wrestling fan growing up?
I was a big fan. I now realize that I was never a bigger fan than some of the people that I work with, because I like to think that I was a big fan, but I wasn't consistent because, like I said, I was into so many other things, gangs, sports, and then circus consumed so much of my childhood, and my circus coach didn't allow us to watch wrestling. But I had my period where I was glued to the TV every Monday, every Thursday. That's when SmackDown was on Thursday nights. I was glued to the TV. I panhandled outside of a liquor store doing flips so that I could save up money to buy WrestleMania 21 as a pay-per-view. So that was how much I was a fan. I loved it that much, but I wasn't consistent enough to call myself the biggest fan in the world.
Did you have a favorite wrestler or wrestlers that you enjoyed watching as a kid?
Oh, easy. Always because of from St. Louis, Randy Orton, represent for the smaller guys, Rey Mysterio, Big Eddie guy, and my uncle, which I will tell a very tough story with my uncle. My uncle was the coolest guy in the neighborhood. He was a ladies' man, had always the money, jewelry. And back in the day, it wasn't cool to be a wrestling fan. But my uncle and we connected on wrestling, and we loved John Cena. And so I saw someone like my uncle who was cool and loved by everyone. He loved John Cena. So that made me love John Cena. He dressed like John Cena. And we used to always gamble with each other. And he would always whoop me. We gamble a lot in our family, whether it's cards, whether it's dice, and we used to flip the coin heads or tails. And every time he would beat me, he would cheat, but he would beat me and he would go, "You can't see me," and whatever, taking my money. I'm like, I'm 10 years old, bro, and you're taking the little quarters that I have. But I have these memories of my uncle and how we bonded on SmackDown. And just how incredible John Cena was for him and myself and my family. We're just us two. We were the only guys watching it. But those guys, Eddie, Ray, Randy, hometown hero, and John Cena,
So I guess you were watching really around the Ruthless Aggression era, which is, I feel like, one of the best periods in all of professional wrestling, and just
and a little bit later.
A little bit later on. But judging so far by our conversation, with the brand split, Raw versus SmackDown, I guess I take it you were a SmackDown kid growing up.
I don't think I was. I just loved the product because I loved John Cena, but I loved Evolution.
Okay.
So I was both.
You were both? Okay.
Obviously, a lot of the some of my Rey Mysterio was on SmackDown. That's when Booker was there too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kurt. I loved it all because WrestleMania 21. I can't even find a favorite moment. That's my favorite WrestleMania of all time. It was the first one that I purchased. I think it was the first one I actually saw. But it was special to me because it was the first one that I purchased with my own money. And I just remember, like, my favorite match of all time has not even my favorite wrestlers in it, but it was Kurt and Shawn. And for me, I just like, how do you go wrong with that card? Everything was just so perfect on that card. And so
that was an amazing pay-per-view, and that was a classic match.
Classic match. It was, I mean, top to bottom, Ray versus Eddie, they're tag champs. And oh my goodness, you have JBL versus I think it was Cena, then Triple H versus Batista. Oh my goodness. It was I think that's correct. I have bad memory now.
It was.
Yeah.
So many great memories, I feel like, that came out of that era. Definitely, I'm glad it's getting love now. And I think that it's one that I feel like will continue to get more nostalgia as the years continue to go on and grow. So,
for sure.
At what point did you say, I'd love to give this wrestling thing a shot? And do you feel like your time in the circus helped prepare you for the world of pro wrestling?
1,000%. This was just like great timing. Like, this was God's work. I was so far removed from the wrestling world because I was traveling. First, I went to school in Canada, and I didn't have a TV. I wasn't up to date with anything wrestling related. And even before that, I was so focused on circus and getting into that circus school because I had to do a tryout for that school. And that school is like, it's the equivalent to getting into like a Harvard or Yale, how difficult it is. And so I trained for an entire year. It was like no extracurriculars, no basketball, no gangs. It was circus, 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 circus. And then I get to Montreal, and I get accepted in the school, and it was circus, full on, full out. Traveled the world in like, I wasn't nowhere near North America. I was in South America, Europe, all of these different countries. Don't have a TV. I'm so far removed from what's popular, like what music is hot, anything. And so I started touring with Cirque du Soleil several years after. And this is my first time touring in the States. Because I toured all over South America and Europe for like 4 years. And so in 2017, I signed with Cirque du Soleil, and we're traveling around the U.S. We come to Orlando, and the first thing our coach said is, hey, WWE wants to do an exchange with us. I didn't even know about NXT. And so I'm like, this could be great. Apparently the Performance Center is here and all of this stuff. I kept asking, like, when are we going to do this exchange? I love WWE. When are we going to do this exchange? And our last week in Orlando, we do the exchange. And I went into it like, I'm going to try to get myself a job. At this point, I am like 16 years into circus. I was already looking for my exit strategy. And so I went in, so doing all these flips off the ropes, doing all of these evasions, a lot of the evasions that you probably saw on TV that I do. I did them all early on. And Scotty Too Hotty said, hey, kid, do that again. And he got Matt Bloom's attention. And I did the back worm under a clothesline, and they were like talking. I'm like, The wheels got to turning, light bulbs went off. And then the next day they came to Cirque du Soleil, training how we would train. And I went to Matt Bloom. I said, hey, how does one get involved? He said, well, we have a tryout next week. Get it cleared by your people. I will invite you. I never got it cleared. I told him I got it cleared, but I didn't have to get it cleared because that was our last week, and the next week was a week off for us. So I literally fly home Sunday after our last Cirque du Soleil show, fly back to Orlando on Tuesday, do the tryout, and in those 2 days, I basically researched like what to expect from a WWE tryout, how do I cut a promo, what do I need to do, this, and that, and completely crushed it. Super athletic. By the second day, they said, hey, you're a stud athlete. We want to hire you. We just have to think about when it's going to be. And so that was just like the what I needed to hear. It was crazy.
It's a dream come true.
It was a dream come true on a dream that I never thought was possible, that I didn't even take the time to think that it was possible as a kid. I just completely ignored it because I'm like, there's no way in heck that I will become a professional wrestler.
And you got into WWE, and your first appearance was with Carmella, I believe.
Insane in the membrane, because I get there in 2020 and I'm green as grass. But pandemic happened in March of 2020, completely put a halt to all of the training, but I knew I needed to get better. So I hired a coach that got released, and I paid him to train me. I trained with like the Ricochets, the Joaquin Wilds, Swerve, a few other guys, Moose, Swan, while there was no training going on in the Performance Center. So I got so much better in like 3 to 4 months because I was training while everyone else was resting. So when we got back to the Performance Center, I impressed so many people that I got the opportunity to go to SmackDown and do a taping. Never knew that it was going to materialize into anything. And the next thing you know, I'm full-time on SmackDown as Carmella's sommelier.
What was it like working with her?
I mean, I tell people I'm the luckiest person in the world because everyone that I work with started from Carmella to Sasha to Bianca, Shayna, Nia, Dana. Incredible. I wouldn't change my path for nothing. It's very traditional to go as a male wrestler, go up to the main roster as a male wrestler. But I was in the women's division as a mouthpiece.
Manager.
My goodness. Manager. And, I mean, it was just the best.
You had an intergender match with Sasha Banks. What was it like being in the ring with her?
It was incredible. That match was the match that blew me up. I knew that it was a moment for me to shine and use my unique ability in a way that they haven't seen on TV before. And, I mean, Sasha is arguably top 5 women wrestlers of all time. I would put her very high on that list in those top 5. And to get in the ring with her and make magic, it was pretty cool because intergender matches wasn't a thing. And for them to trust me to do that, it was incredible. I felt like the luckiest person in the world.
So they have you eventually participate in the 24/7 title division. You mentioned working with Dana Brooke earlier. Walk me through kind of like the plans backstage and how you get pitched these ideas and go ahead and get these storylines out.
Brother, I don't even know just how ludicrous everything is and how it manages to continue to work day to day, because everything is so last minute. Like one day I'm with Carmella. Next day I am doing a lot of stuff with Sasha. Carmella sees this, fires me, and I'm basically trying to get with Sasha. And then next thing you know, Sasha says she wants nothing to do with me. And then next thing you know, I'm traded to Raw and I'm with Nia and Shayna. I'm like, how did this happen? I'm like, I was so upset that I was moving to Raw when I was a SmackDown guy for all of this time. And so I get to Raw, and then we just started rolling. And then we're doing all of this stuff for like months, all of this greatness. And the next thing you know, I hear Vince wants to put the 24/7 title on you, but we need to figure out a way. I said, okay, cool. And this is right before we going into the going live into the fans. And I'm like, okay, cool. Just let me know when. Following week, you're winning the title. What the heck? And it was that quick. And then we just roll with the punches. And it was incredible. It was unique. And then that 24 title run was pretty legendary.
It definitely was. Working with Dana Brooke and working with R-Truth and Tozawa, that was some entertaining television.
Yeah, I think that when you think about the 24/7 title, one guy comes to mind, and he will always be the first person to come to mind, and that's R-Truth. And then when you start to peel that onion back a little bit, you have to think that I am right there next to one of, or top two, top three, top five, whatever you want to call it, greatest 24/7 champions in the world of all time. And I get it. It's the 24/7 title, and it's one of the lowest titles on the card and things like that. But you have to think about a title that is synonymous with changing like clockwork. I held that title for 112 days, which is unheard of. No one has held that title for anything close to how long I held that title with the amount of defenses and evasions and escapes that I was doing. So obviously R-Truth held it a million times, but no one has held it even close to 112 days like I did. And that's a testament to what I was doing with the title was so unique.
Yeah, and so you were a part of that division for quite a while. What was it like?
Whether you're watching your favorite NBA team at the arena, the bar, or hanging at home, grab an ice-cold Michelob Ultra and enjoy every moment of the NBA season. Stock up today and watch your team drop buckets with a bucket full of ice-cold Ultra. Michelob Ultra. Superior light beer.
Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2026 Anheuser-Busch. Michelob Ultra. Registered light beer. St. Louis, Missouri. Must be 21 plus to order alcohol. Alcohol available only in select markets.
Working with Vince McMahon during this time, because this was kind of like in a transition period before Triple H took over.
I can proudly say, and I think I wear this with a badge of honor. As a kid growing up and watching Vince on TV, I can happily say that I was a Vince guy. And Vince kept me on TV, and he saw the value in what I brought to the TV product. The fact that someone that was the 24/7 champion had his graphic in the opening package of Raw was incredible. It was me doing my flip over the rope. A guy that was 24/7 champion had 2 T-shirts as merch, 2 action figures, was in the video games. I'm sorry. Outside of R-Truth, 24/7 champions don't get that. Like, this is the bottom of the bottom. And it's the gimmick title, the one they laugh at. But the fact that I got all of that is a testament to I was doing pretty good work, and I was pretty viral throughout my time. I was pretty consistent throughout my time as 24/7 champion. I love Vince.
Yeah, you were beloved, and a lot of people still talk about these moments to this day and how entertaining you were, and that whole period where you guys were chasing for the belt and the segments on TV. It was just so entertaining.
Of course. I mean, we all love our main events and our mid-carders and, like, our great wrestling, but we provided that comedic relief that you need when you have all of these emotions running high in a show where you have the intense moments of the Bloodlines family, the Sami Zayns, and all of these people. You need that comedic relief. That's what made R-Truth a gold mine for all of these years. And to be a part of that for a short period, I mean, I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, and so eventually you work in NXT, helping work with the younger guys, and talk about that experience.
You know, it was cool because in the beginning, it wasn't about going to NXT and being like a role model or working with the younger guys. I was looking at it as, okay, I need to rewrite this story, because as just as great the 24/7 title and all of those opportunities with the sommelier were for me, it was a bit of a hindrance, because I don't know if that's a word. It hindered my career a little bit because now I was known as the flippy guy, the 24/7 guy. So it was hard to kind of change that narrative because I believe that I did what I did so well that you can't necessarily take me serious as a wrestler that has psychology, And I knew for a fact that that work that I did was great, but what I'm doing right now on the indies, if I could have done this in WWE, I probably would have gotten more titles. I probably would have been a lot bigger than what I am and whatnot. But everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah, I mean, getting released, it's a bummer, but you have that opportunity to prove to yourself and prove to others, like, this is a new beginning for me, and never say never to what the future may hold. You really have to go out there and show everyone, prove to yourself that I belong here. I belong, and I can do whatever it takes to make it to the top.
Very much so. And that's what I wanted to do. And so I get to NXT, and it was just all over the place. I couldn't really get my footing in NXT. I'm a creative, so I had all of these characters in mind for scripts and OTM and things like that. But the writing that I did just didn't match the writing that the writing team did. And we just never got on the same page. But I can say with everything, two highlights of my career in NXT, my time in NXT, and it was being able to get Lucian and Bronco on TV and get them a featured act on TV because they're doing great right now, and I think they're destined for great things. So it was that moment and being able to kind of pass on my knowledge that I acquired from the main roster to them. I do like to believe that I was a big part of their growth, and not only in the ring but outside of the ring. And then it was a huge honor that I got to be Javon Evans' debut match. That is a whole nother honor that you receive in the business when they trust you. So even getting, I didn't get released, but they didn't renew my contract, let my contract run out. Even though they did that, they paid me the biggest honor by saying, we're going to give a guy that we think is the future and they're going to push, you're going to be his debut match. So that was a pat on the back for myself. That was cool.
And you also got to work in AEW as well. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, I'm working AEW, lots of Ring of Honor, and I'm working as my new mask gimmick, Soleil. It feels good to be able to do what I want to do and showcase myself in the way that I knew that if they would have showcased me a while ago this way, I would have been pretty successful. But I wouldn't go change it because I think everything happens for a reason. I looked at like the Kurt Angle. They said no one has entered into this business and got it as quick as Kurt Angle. And I always take that and say, that could have been me. I promise I could have gotten it very quickly if I was given the right opportunities because I do understand it. But some people get opportunities to succeed and some people get opportunities to fail. Like I wasn't put on there to succeed. I was just given an opportunity, and if I failed, so be it. Certain people can fail multiple times, and we like, okay, good, we're learning. I didn't have that many times to fail. So this is just the nature of the beast.
Would you ever consider going back to WWE?
I have no hard feelings. I have a great relationship with everyone in WWE. I am not a guy that holds grudges. I know that it's a business first, and I understand that there's been many people that are much better than I am, and they have been released, and they have gone and made a better name or bigger name for themselves and came back, and now the sky is the limit. So I'm not oblivious to how this business works, and I don't think it needs to change for me. I know I have to do my part, and I've been doing that for the better part of almost 3 years now, proving myself on the indies.
What would you say are some of your future goals in wrestling? It could be in the business, it could be outside of the business.
I want to be big in the business, and not for the reasons probably why a lot of people want to be a big star. Obviously I want to take care of my family and things like that, but my biggest thing is to be a motivation to a lot of people around the world, not only kids that look like me, but kids that go through the things that I went through, kids that feel like they are worthless and don't have a purpose. I understood a long time ago that wrestling and circus, it's what helped me, but it's only the vehicle to something bigger. And that's why I do the motivational speaking, because I want to touch people all around. And I use my story as motivation to say, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what you've been through. You can succeed and achieve greatness. Because if you look at my life, there's no way that this was in the books per se. I think the Lord knew that this was my path, but I didn't know. And there was no way of me ever even imagining that this would be possible. And so my duty, my purpose is to let kids know all around the world that it's okay to resist the pull of what seems like easy solution. And by going against the normal, you can unlock pathways to a brighter future. That's what's important.
What made you decide to get into motivational speaking?
A good friend of mine actually gave me the Iggy to do it. You probably know him, Omas. Omas is a good friend of mine, good brother of mine, and he's helped me tremendously during this tough time of being like on the independents, because it's a roller coaster for sure. And he knows very closely about who I am and my story. He said, brother, you should do motivational speaking. And it was something I actually thought about, but I was so focused on I need to do something now to provide for my family. And when he said it, I said, maybe you're right. I already have the story. I've already have the platform, because even before I was decided to do motivational speaking, I was starting up my nonprofit called Rise Beyond Borders, and it was going to be a nonprofit, like a program that I joined when I was a kid as a circus, but it was going to offer everything that I do in my life: basketball, wrestling, circus. It was going to be a haven for kids to come after school and be able to just escape the day-to-day struggles that they deal with. So I wanted to do that. But I said, maybe I need to do the motivational speaking thing when he said it to me and just go around and speak. And you mentioned one of the guys that I guess you have in his book, Mark Merrow. I reached out to him, and he gave me some incredible advice, and he kind of mentored me and helped me get my keynote down and my website and all of these different things. And so now we've been rocking and rolling for almost a couple of years now. I'm in the process right now of building my speaking tour as we speak. I have a new keynote and everything.
That's so amazing. How long have you been doing the nonprofit for?
So it's not official. Unofficially, I've been doing it since I actually started it in 2024. It was actually before I got released. My contract ran out. I was actually trying to do some stuff with NXT and the local boys and girls clubs here in Orlando, and I had a bunch of meetings about doing this program, but it just didn't happen because I didn't have the team behind me to help.
And now you got your own independent venture. You're not doing this. You're raising awareness. You're trying to give back as much as possible. What have you found the most exciting about having a nonprofit to be able to give these kids an opportunity to be successful?
So I don't have the actual facility yet. It's only, it's just the speaking. Eventually, I would like to open up a facility here, and I just want to give these kids a haven, a place to go, a place of solitude, a place that is safe, and where you can learn things that aren't given to you in their neighborhoods and things. And so when I go and speak, the thing that is most rewarding is it doesn't matter if I'm speaking to a school that is privileged, that have everything that I didn't have, or a school that is similar to the school that I went to. I see these kids, these students, and how they're engaged and how they are longing for someone to come in and to pour into them and to listen to them. And then most importantly, giving them a platform to speak. Because I tell these kids that it's okay. And I start every speech off by saying, is it okay if I create a safe space? I let them know that I'm not speaking from my high horse, from a place of power. I'm speaking from a place that's equal, playing field. I tell them everything. I tell them how my mom was a drug addict. I tell them how I was born in prison. I tell them how my uncle was shot and killed in my bedroom. I tell them all these things because if I lead from the heart, then it's so much easier for these kids to understand and let me in. But if I lead from a place of arrogance, if I'm better than you, I have this, I have that, you can do this, just generic, they're not going to listen to that.
You got to be authentic. You got to be you. You got to be real with people. You have to.
Real, raw, and authentic. I'm a battle rap guy, and one of my favorite battle rappers say his stuff is real, his stuff is raw, his stuff is authentic. And there's a lot of expletives that I'm not going to say, but I take that part and I say I'm going to be that person for the students I speak to. And right now, my new keynote it's the 4 Ps. It's turning pain into purpose so you can unlock your path. And so you can turning pain into purpose. Oh my goodness. So you can find your passion and open up new paths, essentially.
I love that.
Yeah.
When you're speaking to these kids, do you get feedback from a lot of them after your speeches are finished? What are the reactions?
Incredible. I mean, I sign lots of autographs afterwards. And I literally have kids in tears, and I do like these small breakout sessions where these kids that actually need it. And I open up the floor and I ask, like, how did this speech impact you? What did it touch? Like, what do you need me to talk about or to focus on specifically for you? And not only the students, but the teachers, the faculty, they are floored by what I bring and what I'm telling to their students. And then there was a one time where I actually spoke at an elementary school and a middle school, and then they came to the show and watched me perform. There was a little kid, I think he was in like the 7th grade, little black boy, and the teacher brought him to me afterwards, and he told her how emotional that speech was. And that speech was so impactful for him that he was going to come to that show that night. I grabbed an 8x10, I signed it, gave him a bunch of merch, gave him a big hug. And then I wrestled as Soleil, my masked character, that night. And the character Soleil represents, this is a representation of power and courage, because people put the mask on to hide. But I tell people, I want you to know who the face is under this mask, because I want you to know what I went through in order for me to put this mask on. This mask is a reflection of who I've always was. And I have a comic book as well, and I have to go back to the circus to find Soleil and to be who I was always meant to be and not who they wanted me to be. And they could be the writing team who wanted me to be the sommelier or the 24/7 champion. And so I was this character for that night. And when I finished, I signed autographs in the ring, and that young boy came up to me with his mom.
Wow.
And she was in tears. because I gave this kid another speech on why I put this mask on. And I said, don't let anyone tell you that you can't be a superhero, because there's a superhero inside of everyone. And your powers aren't given to you by someone or a spider or an asteroid. You're born with those powers.
Wow.
And so I said this, and she was crying. And so I got emotional. So I took the mask off, and I said, this is who I am. I am no different from this boy right here, and he can be a superhero. And you don't let your circumstances, your upbringing, your community tell you that you can't be a superhero. And so it was just one of the best moments I've had speaking and doing a show. And I realized that I have to put more of this character in my keynote. And so now when I go to elementary schools, I obviously can't talk about the gangs, the drugs, the violence, but I talk about kids and how they can unlock their inner superhero.
See, I think that's so fascinating, because you're creating a character that's relatable and it's got a backstory to it. It's very fascinating. And I think that, like, when you have like so many masked wrestlers and you have so many luchadors, they have their backstory, but I think this is very special in that it's a representation of something.
Of course, it's real. And again, before I have to find the psychology to do this flip or do this flip, well, now I'm a superhero. You don't question why superheroes move the way they do. But more than anything, it's a wrestling character, but this is a circus character. This is a circus superhero. And so the comic book that I have, I did a mini arc for wrestling. The actual story is about the circus. And so who else, what other superhero that is from the circus? Dick Grayson, Robin, Nightwing. But we don't know about his backstory. So I have another side quest arc, what do you want to call it, of how Soleil idolized Dick Grayson. And when Dick Grayson's family was killed, that's when the circus kind of went belly up. And that's why Soleil was put in the box. And that's where Sidney Akeem was born in the wrestling world.
When did you start writing the comic book?
In 2020. And this is, Soleil is what I wanted scripts to be. But like I said, different writing styles from the team and myself. And I'm happy it didn't happen, because now I own Soleil. And now I can do it the way I want to do it.
So you've been working on like a series of comic books, or is it just one, or what do you hope to accomplish with this?
So let me rephrase. I started working on this circus superhero in 2020, had nothing to do with wrestling. When I decided to put the mask on the indies, I said, I need to build the IP. So I need to make Soleil transition or exist somewhere in the wrestling world, because that's what I do. And so I wrote like a 12-page insert of Soleil becoming a wrestler. And I used the real story. I'm going to have to send you a copy of this comic book.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I used the story of how I was laid off from my job. I'm losing a bunch of matches. The promoter comes in and said, you had a great run, kid. Gave me a check and said, we're not going to need you for the rest of the tour. So I throw the superhero, I throw my gear away in the trash, and I'm walking home, and I see my old circus tent. And there was a voice saying, come here, come here. So I'm drawn to the circus. And then it's like, I open up the chest, and it's the glow, and it's the Soleil mask, and it's saying, be who you're meant to be and not who they want you to be and whatnot. And so I used that story, and now Soleil is born, and now I'm coming back to the wrestling world, taking everything by storm. And then eventually I will go back to the circus world to rebuild, to find Dick Grayson. So that's the chances of me getting, hopefully signed with AEW, to do the whole Soleil meets Nightwing and kind of tell the story of the actual circus. So one comic book turned into two different arcs, but I also have a live a pilot episode written for the TV show for Soleil, but it's actual, not animated.
That's exciting. When you just put your mind to something, you're creative about it, you can go anywhere. So, yeah. Were you always a big comic book fan?
I wasn't even a reader. I liked what I liked. I liked certain comic book characters or superhero characters, but I didn't read as a kid. I didn't read anything. I didn't write either. This was a gift that I found in 2007 or 2018. I started writing poetry. Then I started writing my life story in book form, in my autobiography. And then next thing you know, I started writing the comic book in 2020 during the pandemic. I had so much time to sit at home while we weren't training. And I used to call all my circus friends like, hey, if you were a superhero, a circus superhero, what would your power be? And I started writing all of these ideas down, and I started like building out the Bible of this universe. And like, man, I have something here because it hasn't been done before, this entire circus universe, because the circus is the closest thing to real life superheroes that we have. And why haven't no one really built out a circus world of superheroes?
I think that what you've got is just so cool, and I think that it's going to turn into something really big. So I hope AEW, I hope that happens.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. What is it about giving back to the community that gives you the most joy?
Man, I was a kid in those communities that had nothing but hope and wishing that someone would pour into me. And then 3 people did. My mentor, my circus coaches, they poured into me and they gave me this life that I have. Without them, there's no Sidney Akeem. Without them, there's no Reggie, no Scripps, no Soleil. They gave me a new lease on life. Like I was being shot at. I had bullets flying past my head. I was in stolen cars, getting in car accidents and things like that. If I didn't have this outlet, the circus, I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be putting me on your podcast. I wouldn't be in Orlando living this great life with the beautiful wife and the beautiful kids that I have. Like this is like a dream. They say I move like I am a superhero or in a video game. My life feels like a movie or a video game because I can promise you this wasn't on anyone's bingo card in my family. And I'm reminded every day that this life is such a unique one because I have 7 brothers and sisters and none of them live the life that I live. Respectfully.
Are your kids big wrestling fans?
No. They love that I was a part of it. They don't watch me wrestle as much. My daughters are young. So my oldest is 12. My second, my oldest, she just turned, well, she's actually my oldest because my stepdaughter is 12, but she's my daughter. And my other one is 10. And then I have a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old.
That's so cool. It's so amazing. Yeah. Wow.
Who knows? I coach them in gymnastics, so I'm going to coach them in gymnastics. I'll teach gymnastics. So I'm going to train them when they become 3, and then I'll let them decide what they want to do afterwards. But I want to give them the base.
Well, hopefully if they want to do something in the sports world and the wrestling world and the arts world, the sky's the limit for what they can do.
Very much so. That's the plan.
Well, Sidney, I want to say thank you for coming on to Wrestling with Heart. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find out more about you on social media? And if you have anything you want to plug, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, social media, Sidney Akeem B on X and Instagram. YouTube, Sidney Akeem Bateman. I have a lot of stuff in the works right now. So I coach gymnastics, so I do that during the week, and I wrestle on the weekend as Soleil or Sidney Akeem. Catch me in your local city speaking to high schools and middle schools as I look to educate, motivate, and high fly in your city.
All right. Well, thanks again, Sidney, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Appreciate you, my man. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And again, check out Champions for a Cause Volume 1. We have a collection of 40 interviews with some of the most legendary professional wrestlers in the world. Mark Merrow, Buff Bagwell, Jake the Snake Roberts, Tito Santana. Don't miss it. Get it. $15. Champions for a cause. We'll see you later. Take care.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.